33 years in broadcasting, 65 years of hard life experience, one exceptional career. He is the most interesting man in Manitoba.
I'm not always looking for a good story, but these are three of my favorites, except one of them never happened. Your job? Figure out which one's fake. We were in a little tiny community called Neubergtal, which is outside of Altona. And so we're in an old barn there that belonged to the Kron family. Marguerite Kron is a really important figure in the community. She's an artist. And she invited us into their barn. They had renovated this old barn, and we invited a whole bunch of people from the community to come in. And then at one point, the woman who was the piano player had set up, and she said, "Let's sing." So she starts to play, and she says to the people who were crowded into the barn, "We're going to do the doxology." And suddenly, this really complex series of harmonies developed in this barn. And it was almost eerie. It was so spectacular. I remember the hair standing up on my neck thinking, this is about as special as radio can ever get. So it's February, about 20 years ago, back when the winters were really cold, remember that? So I'm up at Gimli, and I've always been really curious about getting out on the lake with the people who fish in winter, right, like through the ice. So I get connected with Robert T. Christensen, and he's got one of those old bombardiers, you know, the ones with the curved top and the runners. So we go way out into the lake where they're fishing through the ice. The hole is pretty close to where we were. So I'm over looking down at the hole because I really want to see. And don't I fall into the hole in the ice? I mean, I got pretty wet. Christensen pulls me out. My clothes start to freeze. Luckily though, in the back of the bombardier is this little stove. So he rustles me into the bombardier, slams the door, and says, "Look, sit up really close to this fire so we can get you thawed out so you don't die of hypothermia. I'd hate to kill the CBC morning show guy because he fell into my hole in the lake." I think it was about 10 years ago when we heard about this inner city social enterprise called Build. And they were working with people who were generally thought to be unemployable. These were people with very bumpy work histories, difficult family histories. I went over to their headquarters and I began to meet some of the people who are working through Build. And that's when the really difficult stuff poured out. These guys had struggled with unbelievable family conditions. Parents who were alcohol and drug abusers, kids left alone for long periods of time, guns in the house. But these guys were so determined to succeed. And one of the guys really stood out for me. His name was Chris Kershane. And I remember after we ran it on the radio, the people from TEDx, they asked if Chris and I and the other guys would talk at TEDx, the very first one on stage. The guys were a little anxious, and I said, "Come on, this is an incredible good news story. Come and be proud of what you've achieved and come and tell the story." So we did it, and they were just beaming on stage. Which one is fake? It's your choice. Stay curious, my friends.